The first presentation is benchmarking organisational BIM certification in Ireland. A bit of background and context on how this research came about. We're here today after 25 years of CETA. A number of industry initiatives and momentum started building around 25 years ago within Ireland. As capacity built over the preceding 15 years in terms of industry maturity, academic capability and research, we started to see more structured research projects emerge, the likes of the BIM Innovation Capability Programme, which then informed other more government invested initiatives such as the National BIM Council, which produced a roadmap to digital transition from 2017 to 2021. That roadmap, although quite old, is actually quite interesting to look back on at this stage because a lot of the recommendations and milestones on it are starting to materialise and be connected. One of which was for the NSAI to produce a BIM certification scheme, which was launched in 2019. Others were for a government BIM mandate, but also a central repository of information and guidance, and a centre of excellence. So that centre of excellence and repository of information and guidance started to materialise in the Build Digital project, which commenced in 2022, and then we got our Irish government BIM mandate in 2024. So that's over a phase basis. That momentum, which kind of built, led NSAI to set up a new dedicated BIM department for standards and certification at the start of this year. When that department was officially launched, the first thing we did was engage with the companies who are already BIM certified to ISO 19650 Part 2. We wanted to see what their experience was, what the benefits after having certification were, why they wanted to go for it, and what the challenges were. A lot of the feedback we got back was similar. One from Siobhan Munley, who's in the room with us today, was that certification acknowledges we're holding ourselves to a standard and maintaining it. That gives confidence and peace of mind to our clients, project partners, and teams. So really good feedback. Once we kind of seen this trend go across the companies we certify, we wanted to see, was this coincident? We wanted to see if this was consistent across other certification bodies, across other BIM certification schemes in other regions and countries as well. Coming from an academic background, the first place I turned to was published research, so journal articles and conference papers. I was surprised. Come on. The first problem I was surprised by when I looked for the benefits or motivations for BIM certification was that there was no academic research published in this area. And it's quite surprising and quite rare to come by an actual gap in published research. But I wasn't surprised necessarily by it, mostly because certification is generally an output of research. It's not generally the focus of research itself. So we said to ourselves, okay, let's structure this engagement with our clients a little bit more and publish this research, because then we can benchmark it in years to come and kind of actually peer review and capture why people go for certification and what those benefits are. There was some certification out there, but it was kind of focused on BIM certification for sustainability or certification of the model, or certification of digital maturity, not necessarily certification focused on an organisation, their experience of the journey. So our objective was to examine why organisations pursue certification in the first place, identify any perceived benefits and challenges, and explore future certification needs to support Ireland's digital transition. So that was the objective of our research. When we looked at the landscape, there wasn't published research out there, so we had to look at more commercial material, the promotion material from other certification bodies and schemes. And we found that from a UK accreditation service pilot study done a number of years back, that the majority of certification schemes, whether it's from BSI, BRE, LRQA, Simply Certification, they all tend to follow the same process. And that's conformity assessment with ISO 17065. And that's the certification of processes, with 19650 being a process. So there's a number of steps involved in this. Generally, a company submits an application or inquiry. That application is reviewed by the certification body to see, look, do we have the competence and ability to certify this standard or this technical area? If so, quotations are agreed and it proceeds to evaluation. That evaluation can take many shapes, depending if you're certifying a product, a process, a service, a management system. But for BIM certification in ISO 19650, it generally followed a stage 1 readiness assessment or gap analysis, followed by a stage 2 implementation audit, so where auditors come in and look at evidence on specific projects. That auditor then makes a recommendation to the certification body, whether the applicant is suitable for certification, and then that recommendation is reviewed by an independent person from the certification process that works for the certification body. If that review is successful, the certification body issues a certificate, uploads it to a directory of certified companies or products, and then the company undergoes an annual surveillance. So once a year generally, but the surveillance time can change. That was the process. To understand how that process affected the companies we work with, we took a mixed methods approach. So initially, phase 1 was semi-structured interviews. We talked to 13 organisations who achieved certification, asked them about their benefits, challenges, their motivations. Once teams began to emerge, we kind of collated that into a follow-up survey just to validate those teams that came from the interviews as well. Participants were generally senior BIM people within companies, responsible for ISO 19650 Part 2 and managing that process, but also some QA leaders, QA managers in the company as well. The sample, as of the 1st of January this year, was 62% of the companies that were BIM certified on NSAI scheme in particular. And that was one limitation to the study. We only looked at one certification body. A recommendation will be to look at this longitudinally over years, but also across other certification bodies. What was good, it ensured coverage of different company types. So we looked at contractors, subcontractors, architects, engineers, and other BIM specialists and consultants. And ethical participation was agreed as a part of this research as well in the survey. So the findings, why companies go for BIM certification or ISO 19650 certification. The number one motivation was an obvious enough one. 77% went for just to demonstrate compliance with the standard itself. 69% did it to improve internal BIM processes and information management. So they used it as a vehicle to improve their own internal processes. Having an auditor come in and identify any non-conformities or what wasn't quite correct helped them improve their processes. Third was to support project tendering and pre-qualification questionnaires. Some clients wanted certification. Some frameworks required ISO 19650 certification. So they did it to access new markets and new projects. Number 4, not number 5, 62% did it to gain a competitive advantage in the market, to distinguish them from other companies they were tendering against. So they were the main benefits. There were some others. Particularly in the interviews, commentary further revealed that several organisations view certification as a strategic investment in future readiness, helping them stay ahead of the curve even in the absence of explicit client requirements. So they did it to prepare for the future, and we're kind of starting to see the need for ISO 19650 certification becoming more and more common in particularly public works frameworks. So that's why companies went for it. I was a little bit surprised. I thought companies would be going for it just to tick the box or get on the frameworks, but most of the benefits they experienced were actually internal process improvement. 69% said it improved the consistency and quality of their project information. So going through the certification process and having that standardized meant that the drawings they were producing, the data they were delivering, it was better quality, it was more consistent. Similarly, 69% said that it gave them a structured approach to continuous improvement. Every year they had dedicated time where they reviewed their projects, their processes, and fixed any non-conformities. 62%, a benefit it gave them was independent validation of their internal BIM capability. So it gave them the confidence and assurance to know that what they were doing was in accordance with the standard. And 54% stated that enhanced reputation and credibility with clients and project partners, having come through the certification process. Overall, the results show that principal value of certification lies in strengthening internal information management practice and providing credible third-party assurance of their BIM capability. There were challenges and limitations to getting certification and having to maintain it. So taking a research approach, it was important to kind of identify these challenges and state the limitations as well. The first was client awareness. Limited client awareness of what BIM certification represents. Some clients were asking for it, but didn't even know what the process was. Or some clients didn't know it was even a thing, so they weren't asking for it. Or if a company was tendering and had it, it wasn't a distinguishable factor against their competitors. So client awareness was one limitation. The second was inconsistent procurement. Even within the Irish public sector and the Capital Works Management Framework, an appointing party like the Department of Education, they might ask for it in pre-qualification questionnaire, but the HSE might not. So inconsistent procurement across tenders and different procurement routes was also one challenge. The third was an internal one for the organisation, which was resource demands. Preparing for an audit, responding to non-conformities, that takes time and effort as well. So having the capacity to pursue certification was a challenge, particularly for SMEs. And the fourth was market recognition. So it's still quite vague on the exact value of certification, as it's still developing as client expectations evolve. For one project, it might be very valuable to have it. For another, it might not be so valuable. So it really depends on the procurement route, what's required. Lastly, we wanted to take a look at future needs. So is the ISO 19650 Part 2 certification for companies, organisations, is it enough? Do we need to look at certification for other standards? Or is there any recommendations for improvement? The first recommendation was that we should look to increase client and industry awareness of BIM certification's value, particularly in procurement and delivery. The second was expand certification schemes. This was an interesting one. Other standards were picked up, such as 19650 Part 6 for health and safety, or even IFC certification in terms of delivery. But also taking the same standard, 19652, and looking at it from different angles. So certification for individuals, information managers, that they're certified, but also project-based certification, which was an interesting one. Can a certification body come in and check that a standard has been applied on a project? The third was to strengthen national alignment between certification, skills development, and public sector digital mandates. Can certification be used as a catalyst to drive skills development? And lastly, a recommendation would be to conduct a similar study, longitudinal and comparative studies to measure certification's long-term organisational impact. So it was quite an interesting research project. It was definitely because it came out of just simple engaging with our customers and seeing what their experiences were, and how a simple activity like that can be turned into a research paper and a research project and peer reviewed. It gave us a lot of valuable insight. And that is our research paper. You can read more about it when it's published, but I might open up to any questions. Yeah, Sean?
Sorry, David, I might have missed it at the start. What was the sample size?
So there was 13 companies, which the sample was 62% of certified companies as of the start of this year. But the limitation was that it's just a single certification body. A recommendation will be to look at other certification bodies like BSI, BRE, EDOQA, and see if they have similar experiences. Yeah.
Apologies, I was late to come in as well,
No problem.
but I missed it. And on the client side, what sort of engagement that you have with clients?
As of the start of the study this year, there was no clients who were BIM certified. So, but this year there's been inquiries from about 6 clients, particularly in the public sector, local authorities, universities, and we've got one appointing party or client who's a global project management partner who are looking to get certified across the European operations. So this year, strangely enough, the clients have really started to engage more. But because the study was done at the start of the year, it didn't capture their feedback.
What kind of costs are we talking about that?
The cost ranges from certification to certification body. NSAI, I can tell you NSAI's cost because I know them. The day rate for an audit is about $16.50 for an audit. The number of audit days required depends on the size of the company, so quotations are normally tailored. But the typical certification cost for year 1 from NSAI was €2,400 to get certified in your first year.
Have you had many companies who are certified to BSI moving over to NSAI?
Yes, yeah. We have about 4 who have transitioned across.
And what is the feedback in doing that?
There's actually a published case study on our table outside from one of them who talks about that process when transitioning from another certification body. So it's been quite positive. It actually came up in the interviews, and the main reason was to support a local certification body and having auditors who are familiar with the Irish BIM mandate and the Irish industry. But I'm here from a research point of view as opposed to an NSA point of view. So other certification bodies can have local auditors as well. So it's really depends on the company's own needs, which one they go with, I think. Okay. I might pause it, hold it there, if that's okay. And if there's any other questions, we might have time at the end to kind of come back to those. But next, I'd like to welcome our next speaker, who is Dan O'Gorman from GS1, who's going to present to us about Auto ID and GS1 standards for SMEs.
Thanks very much. Thanks for that, Davitt.
Thank you.
This one.